Hi everyone, today's discussion is on organization and organizational structures. First, let us define what is an organization. An organization is defined as a social setting composed of several groups of people who bond and work together to achieve a common purpose. That is the same definition given in your module. In common parlance, the word organization refers to institution, educational institution, government department, or business firms. They are all organizations. In the context of management, it means formal arrangement of work among members of the institution with clear identification of authority and responsibility so that organizational goals can be achieved optimally. In recent discussions, we have come across what we call management theories. And we have learned that the modern management theory views organizations as open systems. This nature of organizations implies the interaction between its internal and external environment. The external factors affect the internal operations of an organization. In turn, the internal processes of an organization interact with and adjust to the external environment. So there are several factors inside and outside the organization that may influence or impact its operations. The illustration presented now on your screen are the different types of organizations. Organizations can be classified according to the main purpose for which they were created. So we have government organizations, private organizations, and non-governmental organizations. For private organizations, we have business associations and business enterprises. Business enterprises may come in different forms depending on the form of business organization. We have sole proprietorship, partnership, corporation, and cooperatives. The table presented to you now summarizes the types of organizations based on main purpose, including their corresponding key characteristics and structural forms. So the first type is government organizations. They provide services to the public for assistance, improvement of lives, and protection of liberties. They are created, funded, and being operated through specific Philippine laws. We have two forms, national and local government units. Under the national level, we have departments, agencies, commissions, and authorities, like Department of Trade and Industry, we have Commission on Election, and many others. For local government units, they are classified as provinces, cities, municipalities, and the smallest unit, barangay. Then we have private organizations. First, business associations. They promote the common interests of their industries or companies. They are a coalition of private companies, industry leaders, and private individuals. Examples of these business associations are the Garment Business Association of the Philippines, the Beverage Industry Association of the Philippines, and the Chamber of Cosmetics Industry of the Philippines Incorporated. And there are many more. Then we have business enterprises. They earn profits in providing goods and services. They provide employment to individuals. In terms of characteristics, that would depend on the form of business organization, which we're going to discuss in the next slide. Finally, we have non-governmental organizations, or NGOs. They provide specific services to target beneficiaries. They advocate a specific cause or raise an issue to promote public awareness and support. Key characteristic: volunteer and nonprofit organizations that actively engage in development-centered projects, information campaigns, and other advocacy-oriented activities. There are different NGOs. We have civil society groups, corporate foundations, educational institutions, livelihood enterprises, and research organizations. An example of our non-governmental organizations would be Ibon Foundation. Ibon Foundation is a research education information advocacy organization committed to serve the marginalized sectors. They seek to contribute to people's empowerment by generating and collecting socio-economic data and analysis and disseminate this in the Philippines and abroad. Another example of NGO is the Philippine Center for Investigative Journalism. It is an independent nonprofit media agency that specializes in investigative reporting of political, social, and related issues surrounding the Filipinos. There's also the Philippine Animal Welfare Society. I'm sure many of you have heard about this institution. A volunteer-based organization working towards protection of animals from cruelty through education, sheltering, and advocacy. So those are our examples of non-governmental organizations. Now we move on to the different types of or forms of business organization, and they are presented in a manner by which you can see points of comparison between and among these different business organizations. So, in terms of ownership, for sole proprietorship, it's owned and managed by an individual. Although, there are also businesses that are not necessarily owned by just one person but are registered as sole proprietorship business. Like for example, some family-owned businesses are registered as sole proprietorship. Although this could be owned technically, okay, by siblings, or businesses that are owned by friends but are registered or are still registered as sole proprietorship. There's also partnership where the owners could be two or more individuals. And then we have corporation where the owners are the owners of shares of stocks of the organization. So there can be many. And then we also have cooperatives where ownership is through equal shares of individuals. In terms of management, sole proprietorship type of business could be unrestricted, meaning the owners can actually hire someone to manage the business, or the owner himself can manage the business. For partnership, it's also unrestricted. Partners can actually hire people to manage the partnership, or it can be agreed upon and be in their partnership agreement. For corporations, the top level is headed by the board of directors. Of course, headed by chairman of the board. And the board of directors are selected through election. For cooperatives, they're governed by the board of trustees, who are also selected by their owners. In terms of registration and the registering authority, for sole proprietorship type of business, we register the name of the business with DTI. And the business is registered with the local government, because that is where you will be getting your permit to operate. For partnerships, they have to create and accomplish and submit articles of partnership. Okay? And this is submitted to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Same thing is true for corporations. The incorporators have to register their articles of incorporation with the Securities and Exchange Commission. As for cooperatives, they are governed by the Cooperative Development Authority. In terms of life and existence, sole proprietorship type of businesses, they say, ends when the owner dies or leaves the business. But actually, it depends. Some business owners pass on ownership of their business to a friend or to family. So for as long as someone is interested to continue with the business, then the business goes on. For partnerships, it's different. Upon the death of a partner or upon the withdrawal of a partner, the partnership is dissolved. So if the other partners wish to continue with the business, they have to register the business again. For corporations, usually it's given a life of 50 years, but they can always seek for extension. So a company can live for many years. So let's say, for example, in the case of San Miguel Corporation, it's been there for more than 100 years. Bank of the Philippine Islands also has been there for more than 100 years. For cooperatives, they exist for a period not exceeding 50 years from the date of registration and later on can be extended. They just have to apply with the Cooperative Development Authority. As we have mentioned earlier in the definition, organization can refer to a structure, which is very important in the operation of any institution. Organization structure is defined as the system of how tasks are to be allocated, who reports to whom, who has the authority, and what are the coordinating mechanisms and interaction patterns to ensure that work is done. It creates order by arranging the various parts of the organization, the workflows, the reporting relationships, and the communication channels. We have different types of organizational structures. In the next few slides, we will see the different frameworks that show how each component of the company relates to each other. The first organizational structure that we have is our functional structure. You may refer to your module with regards to description or characteristics, as well as advantages and disadvantages. So the functional type of organizational structure shows that members with similar skills are grouped together into functional departments such as production, marketing, finance, and human resources. So take a look at the illustration on the screen. The blue boxes represent the different functional areas. An organization's functional areas depend on the nature of the business. So in the example given, we have the following functional areas: research and development, production, marketing, human resources, information technology, and finance and administration. As I've said, you can go over your module as regards the advantages and disadvantages of this type of organizational structure. The next type of organizational structure is what we call divisional organizational structure. The first that is presented now on your screen is that of a product divisional structure. So members of the organization who are grouped together work on the same product. So just like what is presented on the screen, the company is assumed to have 4 different products. Thus, they have 4 different divisions. Each product has its own division. Each division has its own group of experts. Each division has its own functional area. For example, you see there, product A, okay, the division in charge for product A, it has its own research and development group, manufacturing, accounting and finance, marketing, and also customer service. And this is the same for other products produced by the company. Another type of divisional organizational structure is our geographic structure. Notice that the grouping is by location of activity. So in the example given, they have operations in the southern region, Midlands region, northern region, and there's also European and international. So the company is assumed to be operating in different geographical areas. The third type of divisional organizational structure is what we call customer structure. I assume that this organizational structure is one which is used in a hospital or a healthcare facility. Notice that it is divided according to the customers that they are serving. So for instance, they have patients who are classified under urgent care. They offer services catered to patients under emergency care, inpatient care, and also outpatient services. So common to complex organizations that have diverse operations, like hospitals or healthcare facilities. Another type of organizational structure would be what we call matrix. So this combines functional and divisional structures. Notice in the illustration that you have there specialists from specific functional departments like finance, HR, IT, etc. And they are assigned to work on one or more interdisciplinary teams. For example, we assume that the business has currently 4 projects to accomplish. Project 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we have here the different functional areas. There are people coming from these different functional areas that are assigned to work for a specific project. So for example, we have an expert coming from the finance group who's joining for project 1. Same thing is true for HR. We have an expert from the HR department who will be joining project 1. Okay? And then we have experts coming from the IT department, for example, who will be working for project 1, another expert in project 2, and so on and so forth. So workers belong to at least 2 groups at the same time. Like for example, in this case, they belong to the organization as a whole, but at the same time, they are given responsibilities for the different projects. Okay? So a worker is a member of both the functional department and the project team. Okay? So that's the matrix structure. This type of structure is not permanent in most cases. Okay? Sometimes, once the project is accomplished, then their role in that particular project is also over. And when the company comes up with another project and their expertise will be needed, they will be again assigned to another project. So that is the matrix structure. Another organizational structure is what we call the team structure. This is created to complete special projects similar to the matrix structure. They're also created to solve problems or to accomplish daily tasks. Team structures composed of permanent or temporary teams, sometimes called the task forces, to handle specific activities. So notice that there's a similarity to that of the matrix structure. So there are people coming from the different functional areas. They make up what we call the project teams. And each team is made up of different project team members. So usually for matrix type, it's temporary. Once the project is over, then that's it. They can change the matrix structure later when there's a new project coming in. In most cases, for team structures, they're more or less permanent, though there may also be instances where the teams may be temporary. Next, we have network. Actually, for the next two types, they're said to be the same. You will see actually some similarities. So network organizational structures are formed by having a core of full-time employees working together with outside partners who provide support or supply services. So that is what you see on our screen right now. This is the business core. And they work together with outside partners. These are different organizations. And then we have virtual. So as I've said earlier, we see similarities for network and virtual organizational structures. Some literature will say that the only difference would be on the use of IT and the internet to communicate with members and accomplish specific objectives. But personally, I think it's one and the same. If you look at how it is structured, you will say that virtual and network structures are actually very much the same. So in this example, we have a core firm, okay, established somewhere and is connected with the different organizations that offer the core organization with certain services needed for its operations. For example, let us say this business is based in, let's say, in Japan. This is an example. So, product development partner is assumed to be based in the USA. Same thing is true for accounting partner based in the USA. Let us assume that the Japanese company has as an assembly partner a company based in Mexico and a package design partner in the United Kingdom. And for its customer service, their call center partner is based in the Philippines. Given the nature of its operations, the only way by which they could communicate more efficiently would, of course, be with the use of information technology. And this particular structure is considered to be very effective because of the speedy and real-time communication, and they consider this convenient connection despite distance. So those are the different organizational structures that are currently being implemented by many different businesses around the world. Among them, which do you think would work best for your future business? I would like to thank everyone for participating in today's presentation. I hope to see you during our next synchronous session. Have a pleasant afternoon ahead.